So today we have Lillian Joy and Claudia Kovo to talk to us all about making maths accessible. So over to the two of you.
Thank you very much. I'm just setting up my slides and I want to obviously share screen. So let me just get the screen up and running that I want to share. And the other thing I'll want to do is drop a link in the chat with the slides that I'm using. So the slides that I have open and available to you. Please feel free to use whatever you find useful in your own organizations. Hopefully if someone can confirm that they can definitely get to it from clicking the link, that'll be, yeah, great. Thank you. So myself, and I haven't even changed my own name, look on the slides, is Lillian Joy now, but it gives you a hint that I started preparing these before I got married. So that's quite good. So the email will still work if it comes to me. I'll update this after the session. And Claudia, would you like to say a little bit about yourself and the context with which you're doing accessible maths at the uni?
Sure. So I'm Claudia. I'm a PhD student in the Department of Physics, and I'm also a GTA at the Math Skills Center. So I did an internship with Lillian this summer about making maths accessible, and I've used a lot of these accessible maths tools during my time as a GTA as well. So yeah, I'll talk a bit about my experience in that sense.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So a little bit of background context with accessible maths. I think when people start to talk about accessible maths, they tend to think of a pool of students without any specific needs. And I think that makes it much harder to kind of make sure that you meet the students' needs. So what I realized as I worked with students was that when you break things down to specific needs, it makes it easier for you to think through, is the maths accessible to that student? So here's an example then. We are going to look at 7 sets of student needs. When I did this similar webinar, maybe a couple of months ago, I stopped at 4. And then when I was preparing for this session, it expanded to 7. And I'm quite sure there's quite a bit more. And Claudia and I are going to kind of have hopefully a few more meetings going forward to tease out these particulars. So this might grow a little bit more, but equally, if you can add to chat anything else that you've come across when working with students, that would be really helpful for us as well. So I'm going to work through, Claudia and I are going to demo and work through some of these sets of needs and how by making maths accessible, you can meet the students' needs a bit more. Okay, so the first one is zooming in to see maths more clearly. And this was an experiential thing for me. When I look at tutors' notes, I can't work out what's under the summation sign. And we'll get to a point where we can show you some of that maths. And typically, we have quite a lot of users at the uni who need to zoom in to see the maths clearly. But actually, your average student, where you have a complicated equation, would struggle to see what was under the summation sign, especially something like that, and would need to zoom in. So there's different ways to zoom in that would be more comfortable for the student. And if you demonstrate these to students who are studying economics, mathematics, and apart from the sciences, they really value it. I know they value it because I can see them pick up their pen and start to jot down notes when I tell them how to do it. So you know that it's like something they really want to know. So the thing about zooming into maths, and hopefully it's clear enough to you that the diagram at the top, the matrix at the top is a bit more blurry and the contrast isn't as high as the example below. Now, because this is a PowerPoint slide, there's no point me zooming in to show you what I mean, but I will do when I move to a website. So when we add maths to web pages or even Google Docs or Word documents, there are ways to make sure we check that the maths is nice and sharp. And normally that would be an SVG, a scalable vector graphic. Just type that in the chat. And that allows it to magnify nice and clear and maintain that contrast for students. And that's quite important. So the main thing about zooming in to see maths more clearly, I thought I'd start by kind of demonstrating a couple of things. So here's some maths, which we can do Control+ on the keyboard to try, and obviously I've gone way too far. But actually, the size of the maths on here, students usually go way further than that. Okay, so I'm not choosing the best object to show you, but you can see that the maths is a little bit clearer and still quite sharp on the screen. And that's by using Control-0 on the web, right? A lot of students would download PDFs and they will try and do this zooming in. So here is a kind of PDF, and I'm just going to zoom in on this PDF using the tool that's made available to me. And it's going to get to a size, and I can't zoom in any further. So actually, this is quite restricted because I need that. If I'm visually impaired, I need that maths to be even bigger. Not only that, the text is not reflowing. So that's a limitation of PDFs in a sense that, you know, they don't reflow well. And depending on the tools you use, you may have restrictions on how far in you can zoom. Obviously, if you use Adobe Reader, that will be a lot better. I can kind of zoom into 400%, and then, you know, I can kind of scroll across a little bit better. But the same thing applies for accessibility. You get to the end of this, you have to remember which line you're on and try and pick up the text where it leaves off. This is the main thing why PDFs are seen as inaccessible compared to web pages that reflow. Okay. So the thing I was saying about magnifying, the thing is when maths ends up on a web page, so the same document, hopefully you'll the same document with the maths on the actual web page itself. Let me see if I can grab the documents coming up. So somewhere on here, we'll have some maths. Okay, there. So we've got some mathematical maths. I can't even read that out because I don't actually do this kind of maths. But when I zoom in on the web on here, as we've demonstrated, it will zoom in and the text will reflow as well, which is very nice, which helps the students. The other thing that you can do with maths on the web is you have this context menu. If you have never right-clicked on equations on a web page, do. It will tell you whether it's accessible maths. So on here, I can right-click and I get this context menu, and I can choose math settings to have a zoom trigger of, I've chosen click. So when I click it, what's going to happen? There's going to be a zoom factor of 200%. So there we go. I'm going to click and it's nice and big. Click the next equation, nice and big. So I can read the text at a comfortable size, but zoom in on equations very easily if I need to. So this is a skill that the students were really excited to find out about. And it was just something I thought would be nice for people to try out. So I am going to, is it S for speaker notes? Yes, it is, isn't it? I am going to give you a link to this object so that you can, so in the chat, I've given you a link to the object. If you can open it in Chrome or Firefox, you should get this context menu that allows you to do the zoom trigger. So if you'd like to try that, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes, well, 1 minute to try that because it's not a very big task. So I'll be quiet for a minute. If you're stuck, feel free to type in the chat or turn on your mic and let me know. Students to do this. We ought to teach students to do this so that they have access to those tools. There's no point making accessible maths if a student doesn't realize they can zoom in like this and do it easily as well. Okay. So the next need that I thought we would discuss was listening to maths. Half the time I can't pronounce the stuff that I'm working with because I don't know the maths. A lot of it's Greek to me, literally, right? So I'm just going to demonstrate what I use, which is Equasio, the University of York. We've purchased Equasio and Text Help Read Write for all students and staff. So I'll show you what that's like on the site that we've already visited. So on a kind of website, I am going to use the Chrome extension. So the little jigsaw piece in your browser. And I'll give you a link. In fact, I'll give you a link to install it after I've demonstrated. So I'm going to select Equasio and the toolbar comes up at the bottom. Now, the most magic tool for me is this screenshot reader. So I can select it, draw a rectangle around anything I can't pronounce. Oh, that's not very challenging. Hang on. Let me go to the one at the bottom because this is definitely something I can't pronounce. So select screenshot reader. Let's try that. And now you'll hopefully hear it.
X sub t equals x sub 0 plus the sum from j equals 0 to t minus 1 of psi sub j comma tv sub t minus j.
Don't worry, you'll be able to play with it for yourself if that wasn't very clear. So that's just listening to the maths, which again can help people become familiar with how the sum of, stuff like that is explained and expressed in English when you're learning, when you're coming from another country, etc. If English isn't your first language, maths is certainly another language in itself. So having something that reads it out to you is really helpful. So here is the link to the Equasio app for Chrome, which I will share in the chat. So whether you, so hopefully if you are using Chrome, I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes, if you wish to install the Chrome extension. And then the next link I'm going to give you is something that allows you to select some maths and read it out. So this inaccessible maths page is fabulous. So this inaccessible maths page is literally someone scanned in a document from 1989. To be honest, a lot of our tutors are still using things from 1960s probably. So here's some inaccessible maths that you can go and try the Chrome extension on. Like I said, it was okay for people. Hoping it was okay for people. Some feedback in chat would be lovely. Thank you. Or if it didn't work, we have the slide on slide 8 that you can follow along and hopefully try again after this session. And there's an option there to turn off autoplay as well, so that when you screenshot it, if you don't want it to play it back straight away, you can turn it on and off through these options. Okay. Mike is asking if we can pause the speech. You can copy the spoken text, so then you can kind of read the spoken text out a little bit slower, which is what I tend to do. But you can slow down the speech as well. Again, in Chrome options, you go to Equasio options, and Chrome options allows you to slow that down. I do agree that it would be nice if you could slow it down. Having said that, a lot of our VI students listen to their work with text speeded up, and it's a case of getting used to the voice as well. So the next student need was copying and pasting maths. This is very much frowned on by the lecturers. I have to tell you that first. No lecturer I speak to would say they want their students to copy and paste maths, because maths is like a language They want the students to handwrite it, become familiar with the relationships between the symbols and the numbers and the relative positioning. So I understand where they're coming from. But when students are looking at journal articles and they come across something, they just want to capture that and make their own notes around it. That's when being able to copy and paste the maths can be quite helpful. So just providing them with a skill to do that would be really, really helpful. So I'll just demonstrate to you what we would do in that situation. So if I want to copy this, I would go to, in fact, let's do it with the inaccessible. We could do it with that inaccessible document, can't we? Here's something that, I might want to kind of copy and paste, and it's quite hard for me to see as well. So I'm going to launch Equasio from the Chrome browser. I'm going to use my screenshot editor around this equation. And then you notice I have the option so it doesn't play straight away. I've got the 3 dots, and I'm going to copy the LaTeX. That's what I'm going to use as the kind of copy and paste mode. We'll explain, Claudia will explain what LaTeX is a bit later. I don't know whether you pronounce it LaTeX or LaTeX. So I'm going to copy that, and then in a Google Doc or in a Google Doc, which is where I'm going to demonstrate this, I'm going to click on the LaTeX button on Equasio, and I'm going to paste what I've copied. And you can see on the right-hand side, Equasio will show you what it has picked up in the screen. If anything is an error, obviously you can make the changes here, and you can then insert the maths into your document. And it's thinking about it, and then it'll insert it. I hope it's going to insert it in here. Oh, there you go. So it's going to insert an SVG for me because I've chosen that quality. It doesn't normally take this long. Okay. Oh, look, it's not liking my connection. Let's try again. Insert. There you go. I think it is doing it now. So nice image there of the equation. So the other thing that you can do is I can, on the bottom right, copy the maths as spoken text. This is what I tend to do because I can't read that out, no matter how many times I hear it. So I tend to just paste in the spoken text. So I've got a crib sheet for how I would pronounce script L sub P of theta equals the product of. So it's a way for me to kind of practice the way the maths is spoken as well. So that's what we're I'm not sure that people want to kind of have a go at copying and pasting the maths as such. Obviously, we do have a little video of one of our interns who was in 3rd year economics, and he was explaining why he did it and how he does it. So exactly what I've just done. There's a little YouTube video, and the speaker notes will show you as well. Just to say that on the slides, there are speaker notes with a little bit more information, and you can kind of follow along with the speaker notes on there. So I won't go into the practicals of copying and pasting the actual text itself, just to save time now so that we have more time for questions later. Okay. So next up is creating digital maths. And I will pass you over to Claudia. I'll just answer Mike's question first in the chat. Is there a standard speaking order for maths? I think there is a standard speaking order for maths, which is what Text Help are using. However, I think different academic practitioners may have different preferences, but there's kind of a unified, there's a kind of standard as well, as far as I'm concerned. But I'll ask Text Help to explain and send put the information back into the slides here as well about that. It's a good question, Mike. Thank you. So I'm going to stop share and allow Claudia to share so that she can demonstrate to you how she creates digital maths.
So I'll just share my screen. There we go. So here we've got the same Google Docs that Lillian was sharing earlier, and I will just demonstrate a few of the different tools that Equatio allows us to use to create maths. So Lillian already showed the screenshot reader. I'm going to start with the equation editor. So this is a really useful tool when maybe you're not that familiar with maths, or you want to get a sort of template for some maths that you want to write. So the way in which this works is you simply type out what you want to write. So for example, if I want to write a summation, then I can start typing in sum, and you'll get the summation symbol over here. So I click on that, and I get this template that I can fill in and say from n equals 0 to infinity, for example, which again, I just start typing infi, and it'll give you the suggestions of what you can put later. And similarly, if I want to write, for example, a times r, and then I want to raise this to a power, I can simply write power, and it'll do that for me. So this is a very straightforward way to create some maths just by typing out the exact thing that you're looking for. So from this, I'll just insert the maths to the Google Doc. And I've got it here. Again, I can make it larger, and I should keep the quality. Okay, now I'll clear this. The next symbol here is the LaTeX editor, which Lillian already mentioned. So if you're not very familiar with LaTeX, this is a tool that many academics use to write articles, and it's especially useful for writing maths that is like looks of good quality. So LaTeX is a sort of code. So I'll just demonstrate here. So for example, if I want to write a fraction, the code looks like this. And then I write dy by dx, and I'll just write the definition of that using my knowledge of LaTeX. Delta x tends to 0 of f of x minus delta x minus f of x divided by delta x. So you can see how we write the LaTeX here on the left, and it'll appear as maths on the right. So you can make sure that you're typing what you want to type. So this is really useful. First of all, if you're familiar with LaTeX, then you'll, like me, be able to write this quite quickly. But if you're not that familiar with LaTeX, then this is useful to learn LaTeX. So I imagine that many students who are having a bit of trouble with LaTeX can use this. And rather than being like me, where you type the LaTeX and see the maths, perhaps you can look, write the maths in this equation editor, for example. Oops, sorry. And then go to the LaTeX and see how you would write that on LaTeX. So in that way, you can learn this. So I'll just insert that. Did that work? Not sure that worked. Let's try again. Insert. Oh, there we go. Okay. So that's the LaTeX editor. I'll clear that. And the next tool we've got here is a handwriting recognition. So this is very useful if you've got a touch screen or a tablet or something like this, and you can literally handwrite your maths. So this is going to be quite slow because I don't have a mouse or a tablet on me. So oops. It even recognized that equal sign, even though it's a bit funky. So this is quite useful because I feel like a lot of people tend to handwrite their maths, and being able to convert it to a digital version using the handwriting that they're used to is very beneficial. So here it's understood what I've said. I can insert again, and we've got another example of how to create digital maths using Equatio. And the final tool is this speech input, which I'm not going to test, but if you're quite confident and comfortable speaking maths, then you can literally say something like a squared equals b squared plus c squared, and it should again show you, digitize that for you. So those are a few examples of how you can use Equatio to create the maths. So I guess if you would like to try it out now, then you could have a couple of minutes for that.
Yep, I'm going to start a timer so that people can have a go at maybe speaking some maths or even hand drawing some maths with Equatio. We were on slide 13 to create digital maths with Equatio. And just to say that doing it on Google Doc, you would use the Chrome extension. But if you're trying to do it in Word, which is obviously, as far as Equatio is concerned, it's like an offline document, right? It's on your actual computer. So rather than using the Chrome extension, you would download and install the actual app for your computer, whether it's a Mac or a PC. And that's where the star is on my slide, refers to the speaker notes, which has a bit more information about installing the app on your computer instead. Okay. So, and just to answer Karen's query in the chat, she was asking, once you have typed in the maths, is it easy to edit? And this bit is almost skipping ahead to collaboration. So Claudia was the person who inserted this maths on the Google Doc. I can now double click it. I hope. I can now double click it and edit the maths, I think. Or maybe you can and I can't. I thought I could.
Yeah, I tried it and it worked. Maybe try closing like the X on Equatio and trying again. But
I wonder if it recognizes you're the person who inserted it. And for me, if I'm trying to double click and edit it, it's just a picture for me. So it remembers the person who was the original editor, shall we say. Okay. So for instance, if I do a difference quotient and I insert the maths, then for me, and I delete it on here, then for me, I can double click it. Oh, it's not going to let me do it.
It does let me edit yours. So
oh, it's just me then. Maybe I had the Equatio running for too long, but you can edit it, Claudia.
Yes.
Okay. So just trust the fact that you can edit it. I just probably need to refresh my screen. Okay, so the next thing that we wanted to, I think I do need to refresh my screen. 2 seconds while I do that and present again. And when it's coming back up. And let me go to slide 13 and next slide. Don't I have any more slides? I'm sure I have some more slides. No, actually, I don't have any more slides. That'll be why I can't move on. Okay. So the other thing that I wanted to demonstrate was completing a PDF worksheet, because again, from a student needs point of view, they're often asked to put maths into a PDF, which is very hard to do if you're trying to write, unless you print it out. And let's face it, if you're printing out in this day and age, and the student's working from home, then they have to rescan it and re-upload it to you. It's all round a really fussy experience. There are good scanners like Microsoft Lens that allow you to quickly capture handwriting and back into a PDF to send to your tutor. That's fine. And there are other ways to kind of allow you to kind of keep the workflow digital if that is what you want. So I'm not judging whether it's good or bad. It's just if you want to do it, there is a way to do it. Okay, so I'm going to open up a PDF file that looks like this. And I've just got a box, like a tutor might say, enter your answer here. It's that kind of box. In order to fill that in with Equatio, first of all, I would need to install another app that's part of the same family. I'm just going to close a couple of windows. And the family app is called Orbit Note. So I have already installed Orbit Note, which you can look for on the Chrome store, and installed it and signed in. So what I can do now is open my PDF from the Google Drive, and I just have to type doing, that one. Oops. Doing maths online together. So once I have Orbit Note open, which has the very familiar text help read and write toolbar across the top, but now what I can do is I can launch Equatio as well. And once I do that, I can type in some maths and insert it. And then it appears randomly. That's the only downside to it. It appears randomly somewhere and you would have to pop it into the box. You can listen to it, which is one of the features within text help that you want to be able to read, listen, and insert audio if you need to. So that allows you to put it where you need it. And then this print button allows you to make a version, save as PDF, that you can then send back to a tutor. So if people need to kind of keep doing things digital, if handwriting is a problem for some of our VI students, like I say, they use screen magnifiers. So being able to do stuff like that may be helpful for some users. So that's one workflow. I'm not going to encourage people to download and install Orbit Note during this session. I think it might be a little bit too much. So we'll move on to the next thing. So look forward to catching up with Karen later. The next thing is converting handwritten to digital. Now, I wonder if I play the YouTube, whether the audio will come across. So I'm just going to demonstrate how we can take handwritten maths and put it straight on a document using our mobile phone. Okay, so here I have some handwritten.
It's very quiet.
And with my Equatio app on my phone, sorry, just to confirm whether the audio is going through the Zoom or through my mic.
It's going through your microphone. So I don't know if you want to stop sharing screen and then share screen again and then tick the share computer sound button.
Okay, so stop share, share again. Multiple advanced sharing options. No, not that one. Share screen, share sound. Optimize for video clip.
Yep, perfect.
Okay, so make it big. Here we go. Yeah, so I'm just going to demonstrate how we can take handwritten maths and put it straight on a document using our mobile phone. Okay, so here I have some handwritten maths. And with my Equatio app on my phone, I am simply going to, and the other thing I have is that Equatio is already running on a Google Doc. So I have the Equatio toolbar at the bottom of my Google Doc. So having signed into my account on Equatio on the phone, it knows I have an active instance of Equatio on a document. So I'm going to choose active documents. doing maths online together. And if you don't mind coming back in again, I'm going to use the camera icon and I'm going to take a picture of this maths. So it's not even very good quality. In the background, you can see there's a lot of writing as well. I'm just going to do save as maths, and that looks good. So I'm just going to upload it. And on the screen, you will shortly see it needs to access my document. So I'm going to allow it. And it's going to access and appear. Ta-da! That's the handwritten maths that is now on a collaborative document. That is a Google Doc.
Cut.
So that was quite magical. I don't know what you guys think about that. I thought it was quite magical to have it appear. Oops, sorry, gotta turn off my YouTube before the next thing starts playing. So that was just converting handwritten to digital, available as a YouTube video, which I will share in the link as soon as I can call it back up again. History, not that one. Let me link that in the chat. Copy. Okay, and where am I in my chat? So instead of using the browser version for doing it in Word, you have to run the app on your computer. So I'm just gonna start Equatio. And the confusing thing is you could have the Equatio app on your computer running and then the Equatio Chrome extension as well. So you have to kind of be careful what's happening at which level. So here's Equatio on the computer. And here's my Word document. So again, I can just type my favorite. Maybe I should do something different. I'm not very good at different maths. What else? I'm just going to stick to what I know.
We're not seeing your screen at the moment.
Ah, of course. Thank you. Sorry, I turned off screen sharing. Okay, so we have on my screen, we have Word. And then I ran the Equatio app by going onto the computer and running Equatio. And that brings up my Equatio app at the bottom of my screen. And so having typed in some maths, I can now insert maths straight into Word. So that will happen in, there you go. And of course, you can decide whether the maths is going to be inline or for us, we have math type on our version of Word, and you can decide inline rather than display, as it were, in the center. So that's the key difference. But yeah, so the final thing was collaborate, which we kind of have already done with, let me just make sure that I'm not going to accidentally use this version of Equatio. So on this document that Claudia and I have been showing you, we can both edit this document together. So you can imagine, maybe I'll let Claudia explain what she does in during lockdown when you were working with students.
Sure. So as I said at the beginning, I'm working as a GTA at the Math Skills Center. And over the past year, we had a lot of online appointments. So I really made use of Equatio at this time, where I could be on a video call with a student, and then we would both have access to a Google Doc or something like this. And we can put our equations. And the student can then make notes around what I've written, and you can see how this way you can collaborate and like do maths and end up with something together. I'll just quickly share my screen again, just to show that I can indeed edit the maths that Lillian did. So I've just clicked on the maths that she made a while ago, and I just clicked edit maths. And you can see it over here. So now I can change, for example, change H to G. And then if I do insert maths, then it should replace the previous equation with my edited version. So in this way, you can share your document with another person, and then they can take a look and make edits and so on.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that and proving that it is possible to collaboratively edit the maths. I think another nice point Claudia made about working with a student in a collaborative document. Before she was able to do that, if she was having a Zoom call and the student was making notes with pen and paper, if you like, she couldn't be sure that the student had made the right notes, if you know what I mean. So it was easier for her to see the notes that the student was making on screen, so that she knew the student was taking down the notes correctly, because otherwise students sometimes make notes and they're the opposite to what she said. So this I think that's right, isn't it, Claudia? I think we captured that. So it provided that interaction. So Mike, can it work from a paused video? I have tried, and in theory it can, depending on the resolution of the video. However, when I tried it with academic work, the problem is maths is performed by the maths tutors. So they write on their chalkboards, and we have a lot of screen capture. And what they do typically is they scratch out the maths as it, one thing cancels out the other, and then they draw circles, and then they show the relative interaction of one part of an equation with another. And so you can't screenshot that. So that's when it doesn't work. But over lockdown, a lot of tutors did create their maths digitally, LaTeX, straight to PDFs, and provided it to students before lectures. And they've continued to do this since, lockdown has finished. So that change in practice has been really highly valued by students, because, like I say, they can get the stuff in advance. They can zoom right in if they need to. They can kind of prepare themselves before they turn up for a lecture, and they can then make their own notes. And they have the option, if they print it out, they print it out. But digitally, they then have options of taking notes on whatever media they prefer. Yeah. So I'm just looking at the chat. There's another question, comment from Luke. Very magical. Tested on whiteboards with various amounts of smudging, and it picks up the equation accurately too. Thank you, Luke. Yeah, I was really impressed that with all the background noise and the kind of lines running through the equation, that it just didn't care about it. It knew the equation. I did write the equation carefully. So you can imagine that some, if you're scribbling it quite quickly, it may be challenged. But once you've captured the bulk of it and you check it, you can easily edit the equation in Equatio as well. So does anyone have any other questions?